Coming to you live from our Auckland Park studios, this is Prime News on SABC 3. Here are the top stories. Judgment has been reserved in the Western Cape High Court matter dealing with the VAT hike just 8 days before the 0.5 percentage point is due to kick in. The Vatican says Pope Francis's funeral will be held on Saturday at St. Peter's Basilica. And the South African Sports Confederation and Olympic Committee, Netball South Africa, as well as the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture have refused to discuss the merits of the suspension of Netball South Africa President Cecilia Molokwane. Good evening and welcome to Prime News on 3. I am Paulette Nell. A pleasure it is to be in your company this evening. Judgment has been reserved in the Western Cape High Court matter dealing with the VAT hike just 8 days before the 0.5 percentage point increase is due to kick in. The court made an undertaking that it will come back to the affected parties by the 29th of this month.
Unlawful and farcical. Words used by these two political opponents, the DA and the EFF, who now have a common goal.
Is only here because it lost in Parliament. Our case is that we didn't lose in Parliament. Our case is that Parliament followed an unlawful process.
I would submit that the process through which the VAT increase was adopted is itself irrational and unconstitutional. In fact, it has elements of deception because what they did, the minister and those who sponsored the increase created the impression that it was subject to change. When you now read their affidavits, they say that they've always known that it was never subject to change.
While the EFF is seeking temporary relief to suspend the pending VAT hike, the DA is asking the court to make a final order scrapping the increase in its entirety, while also calling for a section of the relevant legislation to be struck from the statutes completely. The party argued that Section 74 of the VAT Act gives the Finance Minister too much power. Lawyers for Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana disagree.
And I will demonstrate that it doesn't actually have prospect of success because the unconstitutionality they argue for is non-existent.
Parliament's lawyers say the institution followed all due process, which led up to the vote in favour of the adoption of the Fiscal Framework Report on the 2nd of April. Abra Barbia, SABC News, Western Cape High Court.
Meanwhile, businesses adjusting to the changes in the value-added tax will depend on how agile their systems are. The 0.5 percentage point increase in VAT is set to become operational on the 1st of May amid a court challenge to have it set aside.
Generally speaking, one would want to ensure that your accounting systems and point of sale systems and generally just your accounting and tax systems can cope with a quick increase or no change. So that's on the operational side, financial accounting side. One would also need to, for example, examine your contracts, if you've got long-term contracts, to see what the clauses provide in relation to VAT.
Sure.
And the last thing is obviously your tax compliance function needs to be able to be quite agile and be familiar with the provisions that govern VAT rate changes. But I'm assuming that if things stay the same, it should not necessarily have as great an impact unless people have already prepared significant for an increase and they're unable to quickly reverse.
The Vatican says Pope Francis's funeral will be held on Saturday at St. Peter's Basilica. The Dean of the Colleges of the Cardinals, Giovanni Battista Re, will lead the service. At the end of the funeral, the Pope's body will be moved to St. Mary Major for the burial.
The Roman Catholic Cathedral of Christ the King will hold a memorial service for the late Pope Francis in Johannesburg on Wednesday. The pontiff died on Monday at the age of 88 after weeks of poor health.
Like so many people have said, he's a pope of firsts. You know, he has really changed many things in the Catholic Church. Thanks to Pope Francis, for the very first time in the history of the Catholic Church, we had the participation of lay people in a synod of bishops.
Many world leaders, including ordinary citizens, will be following the funeral proceedings.
He was a man of faith, and I was really sad, but I also feel like he was ready.
Former South African Deputy President Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, who was an advisor to the Pope on poverty, says his passing is a great loss to humanity.
Pope Francis indeed really cared for the poor. My first meeting with him was at the Vatican when he convened us to discuss access to affordable internet for the poor.
Cardinals in Rome will meet to discuss the process of electing a new pope. Khalihle Khumalo, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Welcome back. Onto this. ANC Treasurer General Dr. Gwen Ramokgopa has poured cold water on reports that an attempted assassination of Deputy President Paul Mashatile is linked to the party's 2027 National Conference. Reports emerged over the weekend that the Deputy President's vehicle was shot at 4 times on the windscreen.
Political tensions are simmering in the ANC as regional conferences across the country are set to take place. Leaders of the ANC have quietly begun campaigns for the 2027 National Conference. ANC Treasurer General Dr. Gwen Ramokgopa has refuted allegations that the alleged attempted assassination of the Deputy President Paul Mashatile is linked to the National Conference.
We've seen a lot of fake things, so we have referred these matters for the Secretariat to deal with organizationally, and indeed in due course we will respond to that. I think it's only fair to do that because these are serious allegations, and we need to check their veracity and also look at what can be done.
Singing from the same hymn book, Northern Cape Provincial Chairperson Zamani Song has repeated the words of the Treasurer General, refuting and pouring cold water to the allegations of the attempted assassination of the Deputy President.
Who can, in his right mind, go out and want to kill a Deputy President of the ANC for a 40% party? 40% party.
The ANC continues to engage all political parties in Parliament regarding the 2025 fiscal framework, which includes the national budget. Samkele Masego, SABC News, Kimberley.
The EFF in the Northern Cape says it will consider, among others, court action if there's no response to their memorandum of demands. The party handed a memorandum calling for the abolishment of the Orania, calling it a state within a state.
Hundreds of EFF members marching, calling Orania a blight on the province that should not be allowed to continue. The EFF claims Orania's existence is against the Constitution and demands various investigations and reviews against Orania.
We must respect the law of this country. So we will go to different courts of this country and demand this matter be taken into consideration. It must be heard in court if that's the push.
The Freedom Front Plus say they will welcome any investigation into Orania, as it will prove the Volksstaat operates without public funding.
A community is not something that you dissolve or that you stop being by a decree or something. You can do that with an organization. You can outlaw an organization, but the community is just there.
The EFF has given the provincial government 30 days to comply with their demands.
Premier will work through the memorandum, and then we are going to give them the responses as they requested in 30 days. At this point in time, I think the best thing for us to do now is to make sure we study and give them the right information.
The ANC in the province is currently in a coalition with the FF Plus after it failed to get an outright majority in last year's elections. Part of that deal was that the provincial government will reposition Orania. Ulrich Hendricks, SABC News, Kimberley, Northern Cape.
The Joslin Smith kidnapping and human trafficking case has resumed in the Western Cape High Court in Saldanha, with state witness Captain Wesley Lombard under cross-examination. Lombard has recounted how they were approached by different groups of people who wanted to assist in finding Joslin in March last year.
The search for Joslin Smith involved not only the community but also other communities outside the West Coast area. Joslin's mother, Kelly Smith, Jacquina Polis and Stephen van Ryan are the three accused in connection with the child's disappearance. She went missing in February last year in the Middle Post informal settlement in Saldanha. State witness Captain Wesley Lombard has testified that a lot of the information they followed up on regarding the little girl's disappearance came out negative.
I was told in the trial within a trial that the identity of Makalima only became known to the investigating team that night of the 4th to the 5th.
That's correct, my lord.
Now, what was told to Sergeant Johnson, but that's now in dispute, would have been inadmissible evidence because she's not a commissioned officer.
That's correct, my lord.
The lawyer for Kelly Smith has told the court that his client was continuously grilled with the same questions that made her frustrated and angry. Renesh Sivnarian submitted that the questions that Smith was asked during the interview did not assist in finding Joslin, and that made her angry. Morris will take to the witness stand when the trial resumes on Wednesday. Andy Lembanjwa, SABC News, Cape Town.
Welcome back. The Office of the Auditor General has commended the SABC for not receiving any material findings on the audit outcome for the financial year 2023-2024. The audit improved from a disclaimer opinion to an unqualified with findings. However, it expressed concerns about the public broadcaster falling short of achieving some of its key targets. The Office of the Auditor General was briefing Scopa on the SABC audit outcome for 2023-2024 and the financial statement for the last 3 years. It says most of the internal control deficiencies at the public broadcaster that resulted in the qualification in the previous years have been addressed.
The situation financially remains very concerning. Obviously, and as you state that they've also ended up with a deficit this year rather than a profit, and so it's important that we work with the executive authority as well as the accountable authority to make sure that there are plans in place that are going to produce financial health ultimately, whether it's in the area of collecting revenue from licenses, revenue in other ways.
The gold price set another all-time high record, trading just shy of $3,500 an ounce. During Asian trading hours, gold hit $3,495 an ounce. It has since retreated somewhat, although some in the market are of the view that it could easily breach the $3,500 mark in the coming days and weeks.
A combination of a lower US dollar, high demand for the yellow metal by central banks and other investors, as well as trade concerns and geopolitical risks, have seen investors flock into gold, with the gold price hitting several all-time high levels in 2025 alone, following a good run-up in price in 2024. Today, analysts attributed the higher price to investors feeling unsettled about President Donald Trump attacking the Fed chair's slowness in cutting interest rates, which he argues would help to avert a slowdown in the US economy.
we've seen the US president starting to attack the Reserve Bank governor, that side, that is the Fed's chairperson, and that starts to question stuff like the independence of the Reserve Bank, and that also led to dollar to reach almost a 3-year low, and then now that invited buyers.
Gold is also said to have gained more shine, as there's also a feeling that the US dollar has lost substantial value because investors have less appetite to invest in US government bonds these days, something that's highly unusual, as historically when markets have been on edge in the past economic or financial crises, investors have not only piled into gold as a safe haven asset, but in US treasuries as well.
We know what's going to happen with the trade wars and with geopolitics and I think you'll see gold continue to sit at elevated levels.
The higher gold price has led gold stocks to also gain substantial value, which is positive for investors like pension funds invested in the precious metal. And with global uncertainty the order of the day, it's believed that the gold price could have more room to increase further, especially as there's little to suggest that the two largest economies in the world, the United States and China, are anywhere near retreating from the brink of an all-out trade war that's likely to have major adverse consequences for economies around the world. Nompumelo Losiziba, SABC News, Johannesburg.
With that, it's now time to have a look at the weather forecast.
Good evening to you. Let's take a look at all your weather details. Expect partly cloudy conditions through the northern parts of the Cape Town region this evening. Southeasters up to 40 kilometers an hour. Otherwise, partly cloudy skies and rainfall expected in the rest of our country this evening. 80% chance of showers for Gqeberha, becoming scattered as you head in towards the Free State overnight. The southern areas of Gauteng also expecting some showers. Otherwise, isolated showers and partly cloudy conditions as you head northwards throughout South Africa. Ahead towards tomorrow, and the chance of rainfall stretching northwards. Widespread showers through the northern parts of the Free State in towards the southern and central parts of Gauteng, while scattered rainfall continues through the east coast provinces in towards Gqeberha, and partly cloudy skies remain in the forecast for Cape Town tomorrow. Southeasters up to 40 kilometers an hour. For this evening, be on the lookout for the potential of severe thunderstorms through northern KwaZulu-Natal, most of the Free State across the border in towards the Northern Cape, whilst disruptive rainfall could be possible in the Eastern Cape region, particularly on the coastline, and damaging winds are observed in and around Cape Town. Ahead towards tomorrow, severe thunderstorms in parts of the country. That's the Free State, Northwest Province, parts of the Northern Cape and parts of Gauteng as well, while severe thunderstorms continue to be likely in the areas of KwaZulu-Natal. Richards Bay 17 overnight, East London 15, Cape Town dropping to 12, and Johannesburg dips to about 13, warming up on Wednesday afternoon to 21 degrees. It will be partly cloudy and rainfall is expected. Richards Bay up to 20, Gqeberha 19, whilst Cape Town warms up to about 23 degrees tomorrow. Ahead towards Thursday, partly cloudy conditions, but warm temperatures are expected in towards Cape Town, whilst on the east coast of the country things get quite cool. Cold conditions through the interior of the Eastern Cape, snowfall possible over parts of Lesotho and the Drakensberg Mountains, whilst isolated showers become widespread and continue through the Eastern Cape, the northern parts of KwaZulu-Natal in towards Gauteng. That's it from me. Enjoy your evening.
That concludes our time together this evening. Much gratitude for joining us. Until next time, it's good night and God bless.